magical. We know that things happen that we cannot explain.
Do you?
We want fast, we want slow, what are we feeling?
You pick.
Ray? Look how sick he is.
Oh God, it's real. We're gonna die. I can't breathe.
Dude.
I gotta spit it out.
The pond seal is solid. And we're sealed in here.
Wait, do you see that?
This is crazy. Looks like the whole world is ending again.
Unless...
What?
I'm gonna find a way to keep us alive. I just need you to believe. There's goodness in change. Some people call it hope. I call it magic. Sometimes you can't explain all the magic in the world.
Dude,
What?
life finds a way.
You didn't just quote Jurassic Park.
Carolyn, for So Here's What Happened and Carolyn Talks podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. Nice to see you this evening.
Right on.
I'll be honest, when I was watching this film, I wasn't sure where it would go. At first, I was like, okay, I kind of like the whole survivalist aspect, you know, the whole last men stuck on Earth. And I can't even remember a film that I saw at South by Southwest, where it was about two people stranded in space, but this one is stranded on Earth. But then as I kept watching it, as someone who grew up in the church, I grew up in the Pentecostal as well as Seventh-day Adventist church, it kind of really spoke to me about a lot about faith, you know, and about how, you know, in church we were told to have faith as small as a mustard seed and anything possible could happen, you know, move the mountain might happen, that kind of thing. And like these two men are like in an impossible situation, and like they're kind of flipping the script on faith and their perceptions on belief and in what is possible in an impossible situation. So I kind of got to the end. It was like, this film is about really believing that you can manifest something like survival, especially surviving. So I want you both to talk about the concept of belief and faith and manifestation that this film is about. Because that's what that's what I read is about. It's about having faith that you can actually manifest, basically, to survive, manifest the will to survive.
I love that. I love that. Like, you got the Ted Lasso sign over the top of the movie, like really like believe, you know what I'm saying? That's one of the things that really just sort of spoke to me when I first read it on the page, was sort of like this tangible magic made real idea that permeates throughout the film. And then even also, like, sometimes we have differing levels of faith. And if your faith is down, then can somebody else's faith help you back up again? That there is no impossible situation. There's just a way. You just have to find your way. That's what really drew me to this movie, probably beyond anything else, because it's a faith walk. What you wrote it. What you got?
I mean, listen, I love so much that you pulled that out of that. I mean, Sterling and I both have our own relationships, not only to belief, magic, but also to the church and the traditional elements of faith, and they're complicated. You know, and for me in particular, I am an optimist. And I'm an optimist in the independent film community, which means I am alone a lot of the time. So to be able to surround myself with someone like Sterling and Mel, who are believers, it was really important for me to not only put that out there, but to live that and experience that for the 3 weeks we made this movie.
Yeah.
Well, 3 weeks, yeah, that's all about faith right there. But yeah, but I like, especially at the end with the bowling ball, I'm like, yeah, whether you have faith as small as a mustard seed or as faith as big as the bowling ball, like as you said, like it's about believing that you can actually like make, you know what I'm saying, church, make a way, you got to keep making your way through it, like make your way out of no way. So I think that was one of my biggest takeaways. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Karen. Appreciate you.
Before I talked about manifestation and belief and like the importance of that and like, but there was something that throughout the film, closest from the second half, where the egg is born and the impossible becomes impossible and adaptation, all this goes on. And in my head, I'm thinking, have you guys thought about what's going to happen when you die? And when I thought about that, I mean, with regards to like the
it's
baby,
life.
like, okay, I'm like, yes, new life is coming. This is great. Like the impossible has been made possible. And then I just thought, okay, so what's going to happen to this child now? And in my head, I was just thinking, this is sometimes where, you know, where we say, okay, we prepare for this thing is going to happen, but then we don't think about the consequences. And I was actually kind of surprised that Ray never mentions that, because he's the logical one, you know, he's a pragmatic one. And it was so, and that's just me. And back in my head, was like, well, what's going to happen to the baby? So I want you to talk about what happens next with the baby. Like, what did you guys have any discussions about that? Because
I'll say from my perspective, like the magic that's happening inside of the dome, I think is also paralleled by magic that's happening outside of the dome. I think that atmosphere, like we talk about, I think that there is life beyond us, or at least life beyond us is returning to where we can exist beyond this space, and that there may be other people. Because I don't think that Ray would have wanted to bring forth life if the potential for it to move forward was not a real thing. Even though he's sort of concerned about it, I think that there's a renewed faith in the possibilities outside of where we are.
I think Ray believes in a green light.
Yeah.
I think the green light is hope, and he doesn't know what that's going to bring, and that's enough for Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in my head I was thinking, because this film has a lot of biblical connotations to me anyway. So you know, like growing up in the Bible, you know, people always say, oh, it's just Adam and Eve. But I always remember in Sunday school and then in Sabbath school, you'd always say Adam and Eve were the first, but they weren't the only. You know, I always believe that God created other people outside of Adam and Eve. They were just the first two, and they were sequestered in the Garden of Eden, but there was a whole civilization going on. So I was just thinking the two of them think they were the only two, but in my head I was thinking they weren't the only two. So therefore, henceforth, we're not beyond the green line, beyond the border of the hills that they're looking at. There's a whole other civilization surviving.
I think that can work.
I like it.
I think that can work.
So that's my headcanon.